Not a good podcast.
Not a good podcast.
This is not a good podcast.
You're listening to Not a Good Podcast with PB and Johnny V, episode 17.
Hey guys,
How's it going?
pretty good.
Yeah.
So in the audio that we started, my wife was asking for a new chair, and she was making a lot of squeaking. So you
Way
probably
to go.
Yeah,
Women.
it's 73 in here, and she's putting on winter socks. She's always cold, always cold.
Well,
You're pretty cold.
I am pretty cold.
Yeah, hearted.
Yeah.
How you doing, Jay?
Oh, we're good. How are you guys?
Pretty good.
You guys got suntanned today.
Yeah, we in the last, well, basically we just laid 5,000 square feet of sod, and 4,000 was today for 4 hours.
This
half
is how
an hour.
it went. We just had dinner. This is how it went.
Half
3
an
weeks
hour.
ago, PB goes, I think I'm going to get some ducks. So he bought 2 ducks, which turned into 8. And then he's like, I think I need to build them
Well,
a little
yeah, the
house.
The yard wasn't flat, and our HOA, they don't want you to have chickens. So I had a project that they had to approve, and that was adding dirt to our yard. So I was like, well, we got to get the yard done. I've got 2 weeks until these ducks move from our back porch, so we got to get this done now. And the next, I called a
Dirt guy.
Dirt guy. He's like,
Joe Dirt.
so basically, yeah, he's like, I'll be there tomorrow. So,
PB's thinking, oh, it's going to be 5 dump
loads.
trucks.
Yeah, 5 loads. And he's like, 21 loads later. I was like, we better call it, man. We're just kind of, we better call it.
By the way, that's $10,000.
Yeah. Oh my
So the
God.
ducks were the loophole. You can't have chickens, but the ducks were the loophole.
And then,
However,
and
this is
then-
what we thought.
No, then he goes, I think I'm just going to lay hay and seed.
Yeah.
And the grass will grow.
And so the dirt guy is like, you better get some sod and just put it against the pond because it would all erode. So we got a $89 100-foot tarp to just help with that. That wasn't stopping the water. It was like the Grand Canyon of just crevasses back there. Just our dirt was just going away so fast. So then we got 2 pallets of sod. I know everyone listening is so excited about this story. But,
Everybody in Florida will be.
oh, I
They'll
know
exactly
So we
what
got
we're
2
talking
pallets
about.
of sod. I loaded them up on my truck, and my truck does 2,300 pounds, definitely 3,000 or
Easily.
more, easy. My muffler probably was touching.
It was.
It was. I got a good truck too. Well, anyways, I was in my last load, and the guy called me. And he's like, "Hey, we can deliver sod. How many more do you need?" I was like, "I need 8 more." So
8 more pallets.
and this was after I seeded too. So the seed's not cheap.
Then he laid it down and he got rid of the ducks.
Yeah, the ducks were gone even before the sod showed up because we found a clause that said no fowl in the neighborhood. And
HOAs will get you though, man.
so I'm about the gray area. My wife's about the black and white. And
I'm a gray area guy.
she's like, we gotta send them out. So we have a friend. She's got a farm, and I really think in the end of this, she convinced me to get ducks so she would rescue the ducks from us in about 3 weeks.
Bingo.
So all in all, we're good.
Good job.
Super exhausted.
Well, this leads us.
Jay helped today, or not helped. He did it with me.
There you go. So you guys are really sunburned.
Super
So-
sunburn.
I only died almost once, so that was a victory.
Good.
But
It's good. It'll make you
it was
harder.
great. Yeah.
Half an hour a pallet.
It leads us into our next segment. We have a special guest.
I don't know how
on
it
the
leads
show.
us. This is not a really good segue, but
I don't know about it special either.
yeah. Oh, so happy that he's here. So you want to
Gotta-
introduce us?
yeah,
Speaking
we-
of ducks,
Introduce us.
So we have a special guest tonight, DEA Dave. DEA Dave, welcome to the show, man.
Thanks for having me.
How you doing?
Doing great. Great.
Well, so we are all about back in the boys in blue and military and all that, man. So we love having you here. Why don't you give us a little bit of background, who you are?
Well, for the record, retired DEA. So
Retired.
retired. Yes. Let's start with that. I did 21 years in DEA. Before that, I was a cop for 7 years in Texas, and retired now. Just enjoying life.
Living life, man.
Mm-hmm.
That's amazing. You like South Florida?
I did most of my career in Miami, so I know South Florida very well. The ins and outs, the goods and the bads.
Well, we got a lot of good questions for you tonight. We're just gonna
Square
away.
grouper.
yeah, square grouper.
can't say
That was actually one of our
That'll get you canceled
most-
on YouTube.
Yeah, that's true. That we got canceled
Was
on
it from
YouTube
that
because
one?
of that. That was it. Yep.
Because of that term?
I don't know.
No.
But YouTube dropped us because of that one.
Yeah.
Don't mess this up for us, DA Dave.
I've already asked what the limits were, what I could tell about some of my previous activities.
Yeah.
So I'll try not to get canceled.
Well, we don't want you to get canceled either. So we'll
you
just
don't
keep
know what
you
I've
as
done.
anonymous. This may get good.
So yeah, well, I think we should just dive right into it.
into it.
Number one, before Jay starts asking the deep questions that we have, the border right now is
Wide open.
it's a huge hot topic. I mean, we have thousands of illegals crossing the border every single day.
Yep.
Every single day. You being a Texas lawman, you've probably seen it firsthand. Being DEA, you've seen that firsthand. Give us your thoughts about what you're seeing right now, or at least some of the contacts that you probably still have. Would love to hear what's going on.
And so I'm going to talk from my experience as DEA, again, from 5 years ago when I retired,
Yep.
and what I know from the media. I don't have specific information about specific cases, but just common knowledge and what I believe to be going on. Of course, the drug trade has been coming through Mexico since the 80s. You know,
Yeah.
back in the day, in the cocaine cowboy days, it was all coming up through the Bahamas. Vice President Bush came down at the time, started a big task force. They have an operation with the Bahamas. Still goes on today. It's called Operation Bahamas, Turks and Caicos, where DEA and the Bahamian police patrol the Bahamian Islands. And so we kind of pushed everything into Mexico. And
So for the novice out there, what is the DEA? So I mean, you're going into what's
Okay.
What was the purpose of it? It's drug enforcement,
it's
right?
the United
Administration?
States, the United States Drug Enforcement Administration. It's the best to work for out of all the federal agencies. I'll go with that. When I went to the academy, we used to share the facility with the FBI, and those guys would have big old books like that, trying to walk down the hall with these big old binders, and because they had 240 laws to learn, we just had one, so it was great. Just don't have drugs, don't make
And it
drugs.
just said
Yeah.
drugs on it.
Drug. It's one piece of paper.
Yep.
Don't do drugs.
Yeah.
Exactly. Thank you, Nancy.
18-point font.
Exactly. So so we enforce the U.S. drug laws. We're all over the United States. I don't know how many offices now, but they're all over the world. Back a while back, a couple years ago, it was 86 offices in 63 countries or something like that. So a wide range of tasks, investigating heroin and in Afghanistan, Colombian heroin, Colombian cocaine, and getting down to the source.
So you've been all over the world pretty much.
I've been to all over South America and half of Europe.
Okay.
So I've avoided the real bad spots. I tried to get there, but I didn't get to go.
I don't know. Europe's pretty bad.
It was all right.
Smelly armpit.
Yeah. Dirty teeth.
Dirty.
It was terrible.
Summer teeth. Some are here, some are there.
I think that's Tennessee, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's true.
That's my wife. That's my wife.
I'm only here 5 minutes. I'm already
Yeah,
insulting her.
that's great.
Probably won't be welcome back.
I love it. I love it. So, before I interrupted you, you're just kind of giving a little background.
Okay.
So you've been some places.
Yeah. Yeah. So I worked in Miami, and but coming from Texas was interesting because, as I said, the U.S. moved the drug traffic from the Bahamas into Mexico, and so I was a cop 200 miles from Mexico, and not knowing really anything is going on like this because I started as a cop in '92, so no internet, none of the big stuff like that. And as I watched my town's crime go up and Mexican gangs start building, not knowing, why.
Yeah.
But we saw that my last year as a cop, we had 7 homicides in our town. And then the next year was 14. The next year was 21. Of course, I'm calling my buddies going, hey, I left that town for a few years. What's wrong with you guys? Yeah, it was fine when I was there.
Yeah.
But but then when I got to Miami, actually one of the first defendants I got to interrogate was one of those cartel leaders from Mexico, and he just spelled it all out. I'm like, well, that makes sense. That's
Whoa.
yeah. And so we went through the period of where the Colombians owned the cocaine coming out of Colombia, and the Mexicans were shipping it through Mexico. And then once they earned the money to buy the cocaine, then they owned the cocaine going through Mexico, and that's when it really got into the big gangs and big money involvement, and that's when it got violent.
Trying to get the money.
Everybody wants the money. Drug dealers are just greedy people. That's all they are. Most of them aren't mean, aren't bad guys, except for being drug dealers, but they're just motivated by greed. And for a lot of people, no matter if it's a crack dealer on the street or the cartel leader, they're just greedy people.
Yeah.
Man. So were you caught between cartel wars then?
Probably not. It was one big group of smaller people just trying to do the same thing. And then it really didn't get bigger till after I was already in Miami.
Gotcha.
Sounds like it changed when you left because
Again,
they called you the kingpin. They had a name for you.
El Jefe.
He's like, he's gone. Let's go. So what did you do in, you went from Texas to Miami?
Yes.
And were you still a cop in Miami, or did you
No.
change?
I
You went
guess
into the DEA.
Yeah, the DEA moved to Miami. We go to the FBI Academy is on the Marine Corps Quantico base. And so we went up there for 4 months. And during that time, they tell you where you're moving to afterwards. And it was either New York or Miami. And it gets cold in New York, so forget
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, absolutely, man.
I think you picked a good one.
Good choice.
So, how, Jay, you can actually, if you want to ask the first question.
Hey, we'll just fire them off.
Yeah.
I guess the first question we have on this list we have for you, how are the drugs actually getting into the U.S. as far as you know now?
So, again, going back to drug dealers, they're all greedy people.
Right,
And they've
yeah.
got nothing but time and money on their hands. And some of them are the most inventive, creative people you could ever meet. And some of the things I've seen would blow your mind.
What's one of the most creative ways that you've seen drugs smuggled in?
Not to give anybody any ideas, of
course.
But
Well, we see all
but
the
it's just
stuff.
history.
Yeah, we see
it's
all
already
the,
been done.
We
Yeah.
see all the
It's
goofy
been
stuff
done.
on
It's been done.
in Hollywood.
Yeah.
Like in movies and stuff,
yeah.
you see the weird
Yeah,
things.
exactly. So we worked one case where there was a shipment of 4 kilos of heroin. Back at that time, that was about $82,000 a kilo. So do the math.
okay.
And it was coming into Miami to an import-export business, came from Colombia, and it was going to New York. And so we go to this, it's a huge warehouse where this guy just receives boxes and waits for the owner to come pick it up and take it on their way. So we run a drug dog through this huge warehouse. Dog doesn't hit anything. And so we're trying to get the owner to identify the box without telling which box it is.
What's in the box?
Yeah. And he doesn't know. He's not part of it. He's just some little old guy running a business.
Yep.
And he's like, well, I don't know what you're looking for, but this is the only box that's come in, and it's came from Colombia, and it's going to New York. And we're like, well,
That seems like the one. That's the one.
there's a chance, yeah. And we just can't go open a box because we have to get a search warrant, and we didn't have anywhere near enough reason. But
Just fall on it really heavily.
It's his business, so we're like, hey, there's drugs in there. You're responsible. He's like, open it up, let's go. And when I was a kid, my dad was really good with me. And if something was broken in the house and we were going to get rid of it, he's like, take it apart. And so I've taken apart computers before.
Oh, yeah.
So we open up this box, and it's 4 of the power supplies from inside of a computer tower. Right. So it's a silver metal box.
Yep.
And I pick it up. I'm like, this is kind of heavy.
Yeah.
I'm like, you mind if we take it apart? Yeah, go ahead. And so we open up the box, and it looks kind of like a power supply box, except it's got these 4 big blue tubes. I'm like, that doesn't look right at all. And sure enough, we cut one open. It was a pellet of heroin, right? So not like that, about the size of my thumb. And it was wrapped in rubber 2 condoms, and then wrapped in lead, and then wrapped with the blue tape that they wrap those big old capacitors with.
Wow.
And each of them, it was a quarter of a kilo. So 8 kilos of that. But if you would have looked at it and didn't know what that computer box was supposed to look like, you would have never known.
It's $20,000 right there.
Yep.
That's a lot of money.
That's what they're buying it for from Colombia. Now split up that into gram sales.
Yeah.
Got yourself a multi-million-dollar business.
It's
right
$2,000 a gram. I don't know that.
there. Have you seen?
Is that what you're? Is that what you're?
You just threw out a number.
Is that
I
what
just
you're
threw out a
paying?
number.
Is
No.
that what you're paying these days?
Yeah.
What part of town you getting that in?
See, I'm really offended by this all drug dealers are greedy kind of thing. I meant it for the ministry. Meeting some nice people.
You're making people happy, right?
No, yeah, don't research me, guys. Don't not research me. I don't know. Don't look into my past.
Oh, we're definitely looking in the past.
But I've also been to a house in Medellin where they were building suitcases, and the outside frame, they were taking a sheet of tin and laying big packets of heroin down the tin, and then they would fold the tin over into thirds, so it would be like one long piece, one wide piece of tin, and then they would frame the suitcase. And I'm talking with my hands, and I know nobody can see my hands. I'm half Italian, so I can't help it. But they would frame out the suitcase and wrap it up so it looked like a normal suitcase, and they would have a kilo of heroin. People cruising through the airport with a kilo of heroin in a suitcase, and it was lined in lead as well, so the suitcase was pretty heavy. But
I've actually got a side question real quick. Have you ever had to, let's say, do any sort of crazy drug bust, maybe, let's just say, Outback Steakhouse? Anything like that? Any crazy place?
where do you want me to start?
A lot of Outback Steakhouse stuff.
Where do you want me to start?
Yeah?
We do a lot of our takedowns, our buy bust as we call them, where the bad guy brings the drugs to our undercover or an informant, and we always do them out in an open parking lot, so it's nice and public. And but in doing these things, you never know what's going to happen. We did one in a Hooters parking lot in Miami because drug guys love to go to Hooters,
Chicken
right?
wings.
Yeah. And so we're doing the takedown in the parking lot, and these people are all just clamoring at the window from inside looking. We're like, there's like 20 guns facing you. Get away from the window.
Wow.
Get down, do something. Not what we intended to do, but just the way it went.
Man.
We did a deal in a Walmart parking lot. It turned into a crazy chase where one bad guy jumped on the hood of his car that he came in, and he's hanging onto the hood of the car doing 30, 40 miles an hour through a Walmart parking lot.
Sounds like a Tuesday night at a Walmart.
Sounds like a typical.
Yeah, except it was noon, but nice and
But it
slow
was
traffic
Tuesday.
there.
But it was Tuesday.
Have you seen where the government on the tax forms want like drug dealers? I'm going to read this off. It says income from illegal activities such as money from dealing illegal drugs must be included in your income on Schedule 1, Form 1040, line 8Z, or on Schedule C, Form 1040. If from your self-employment activity. This is from the Bureau. Yeah, they're wanting. They think that these criminals are dumb enough to include their income.
And you think they're not?
Well, I mean, they are, but like you said, there are some that are just,
Yes, we often only catch the stupid ones.
Right,
Those
absolutely.
Here's another
Absolutely.
government form thing. So this is more ATF thing, but when you're doing when you're doing a firearm purchase or transfer, if you put, it says male, female, and then there's another box. If you put whatever gender you think you are, and it's not on your license, they only have 2 genders, so they'll decline you for any purchase. So
Because there's only 2 genders.
there's only 2 genders, and then there's another box, I think. But last time I was getting a gun, they was like, well, all transgender people get declined. Isn't that interesting?
So you got declined?
I got declined.
I didn't know they bought guns.
Funny note on that, I saw this the other day. What, you know how they have the acronym, the LGBTQ, XYZ, whatever it is now. What does the B stand for?
Bi. And that, so
How many
they're
is bi?
saying, they're saying there's two genders with
Huh.
bi.
Interesting. Interesting side note.
Yeah.
Just a thought.
Yeah, so
I don't know.
their
It's all
whole their
made
own
up.
acronym is refuting the whole only two genders.
It's almost like they're making it up as they go.
I think
No
so.
way.
Yeah.
Who would do that?
It's coordinated. So what do you know about transgenders?
Stopped years ago.
Okay. Tell us some some
Just on
crazy
that note,
stories.
it's like Stripes. That I remember the movie
Yes.
Stripes.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah,
hey,
man.
hey, no, I'm willing to try.
Yeah.
That had every good like comedian actor in it, man. That
Yes,
like back in
yeah.
that was so good, man.
Yep.
So what type of drugs right now are the most popular? Like that you know, like you said, you've been 5 years ago, you've been retired for 5 years now, but I mean, I'm sure you've probably seen an increase in that drug to now, or
So from what I'm hearing and seeing and reading is that cocaine's actually making a comeback, which is surprising. But just the really crazy part of it all is the takeoff of fentanyl.
Yeah, I was about to
fentanyl's
say that's what
crazy.
you're hearing about. Yeah.
Yeah, and the even scarier part is that they're mixing it with everything. Like you can buy a joint now of marijuana that'll be laced with fentanyl, and it doesn't take but one little grain of salt to kill you.
What is fentanyl? Like what is the
So
what does it make you feel? What does it do? What's the
So fentanyl is a legitimate pain reliever. It's been around since the 50s, and it's been typically used in hospital settings because it's a very strong opioid, and it's like 50 times stronger than morphine. And but using it in hospital settings, like I actually was on a civil jury a long time ago, and the husband and wife were suing the doctor for giving the wife fentanyl, and their baby was born mentally handicapped or whatever we called it back then. And so they were saying it was because of the fentanyl. So I actually learned a lot about fentanyl back then. But the reason that they keep it in hospitals is because a doctor doesn't know how your body is going to respond to an opioid, and so the slightest amount you could overdose like that. And when you overdose on an opioid, it's basically your body forgetting to breathe. It's like, I'm done breathing. Yep.
Wow.
And but in a hospital, they had Narcan. And so if they overdose you in the hospital, they just hit you with Narcan and you're fine. So
I actually know. Oh, sorry. I didn't want to interrupt, but I have an acquaintance that just had a baby, and they gave her fentanyl after the baby was born
okay.
to help with pain.
Okay.
So, and when I heard that, I thought that's odd.
are you sure that was the doctor?
Wait, who is this?
Huh?
What?
This was just someone I know that she recently had a baby, and they gave her fentanyl, and I believe it was after the baby was already born.
That's crazy. But then they're
But
nursing and all that.
I'd never heard of that.
No,
ever
not
happening.
after. Yeah. Yeah.
Holy
Interesting.
crow.
Yeah.
Do you know about the boy that ate his neighbor's face? What he was on?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Bath
And-
salts.
And there was a
Was it
But
bath
the
salts?
It's not.
toxicology
Believe it
report was clean.
marijuana.
Marijuana.
Marijuana. Yep. And if you do a little more research, there was a very similar situation. I want to say maybe 3 to 5 years ago in Miami, where a guy ate a guy's face off on the bridge going onto Miami Beach.
I heard about that.
Yeah, and everybody thought the same thing too. Oh, it's flakka. It's all that other stuff. Marijuana.
It was the whole, because they were relating it to the whole zombie thing.
Yeah.
Walking. I remember
Yeah.
all that. Yeah.
Yep.
But now they really are zombies, man. There's a guy on YouTube that just drives through like the streets of Philly.
and they're just
Have you seen him?
weaving.
seen that one,
They're
no.
just standing there, just
man.
kind of like I don't know how they're not falling down.
Well, that's heroin, opioids.
It's
Yeah.
crazy though, because they are. I mean, there's tons of them.
Was there any guys on your task force that got exposed and got addicted?
So we actually worked a case. One of our officers did. I didn't work on it personally, but we worked a case on a highway patrol trooper, and he had gotten in a car accident, had back pain. And if you want to go off on the tangent of doctors prescribing the wrong medicine, we can go there. But basically, the doctor got him addicted to opioids, and this was during the pill mill days. And so he's working on 95, and when he saw Tennessee or Kentucky, he would pull them over, and they always had bags of hundreds of pills. And he would take some for himself, and then so he ended up getting arrested.
You know, it's crazy
Is it
that
Tennessee and Kentucky?
Yeah,
you know, in North Carolina, where I'm from, in the hills and there.
Yeah.
I mean, pills are like, they've always been a thing,
yeah.
right? We call them pill poppers, man. I mean, they've always been.
Back in my wife's hometown, it was meth.
You got meth? Yeah, we have meth heads too.
Yeah.
Was there meth heads down this way?
Not too much. Florida has not been a big user of meth except in the club scenes.
Okay.
We actually did work one case in a different county, Highlands County. So it doesn't matter what I say. It was in Highlands County, and there was a dealer there who was running that county and a couple counties surrounding it. And he had a ton of users, and he was a user himself. And so we're intercepting his phone.
Broke rule number 1, man.
Yeah,
Never take your own stuff,
yeah.
right?
And and then when he started doing it, you can just listen to call after call, getting faster and faster and faster, and you just can't understand anything after about 2 days. And then he's down. Then his phone is down for like 4 days. And then he'll wake
Crashed.
up. Yeah,
He crashed.
Wow.
Yep.
What about Old Town Albuquerque? Have you been there?
No, I'm not.
Okay, that's where the Breaking Bad was.
I haven't seen it.
You haven't seen it?
I watched the last episode.
You started with the last, or I mean, you ended with.
Well, everybody
wrong
was
with you?
talking. Everybody was talking about it, so I was like, "All right, let's see what's going on." And it was like because it was the season finale.
Yeah.
And I was trolling all my friends. I was like, "Why is Malcolm in the Middle's dad dealing drugs now?" They didn't appreciate that.
No,
but
the pop culture is kind of like that was like a hero like a hero story of
Like a Robin Hood. Type of
yeah,
thing.
it really was, and I imagine it didn't help the DEA at the time because I don't know.
It's probably, if I remember correctly, it was one of those things where it got DEA's name, and it's like there's no such thing as bad media.
Yeah.
Right. So
Yeah.
people see DEA, and then people start applying to be DEA agents.
Ah.
So now, if you want to watch something good about DEA, that's actually pretty realistic, is Narcos. Oh, that whole all those. So I've met Stephen Harvey before, and I've been to Columbia many times. Matter of fact, the first 30 seconds of the first episode, when I saw what they were doing, I'm like, no, don't do it. And they did it, and it comes back later to bite him in the butt. And
Yeah.
So have you been to Escobar's compound?
I've not been on the compound, but I've driven around it. We were down there one time, and the police captain we were working with, he was giving us a tour, and we did a raid the day before, and so it's the next day. We're just collecting our evidence and doing our reporting stuff, and he's driving us around Medellin, takes us downtown. Pablo Escobar had a thing for fat ladies, and so there's this center of town. It's called the Parque de las Gorditas. It's the Park of the Fat Ladies.
Okay.
And there's these 40-foot tall bronze statues of fat naked ladies. There's
Okay.
like 6 of them or something like that.
Wow.
And so we got to see that. We drive up into the mountainside through Pablo to all the neighborhoods that he built, and then out near the prison. Again, we didn't get to go too close, but
So
were in there.
apparently though, there's like rhinos and all sorts of, because he had a zoo. He had a zoo, and during the last raid, all of them escaped, and so
Yeah.
they've just populated the area.
Whoa.
Yeah, he loved exotic animals.
Yep.
So,
Wow.
and beautiful countryside. We flew over that in a plane at a rather low altitude. Just gorgeous. I've been mountain hiking in Bogota. Unbelievable.
man.
So,
Well, I've seen some documentaries and I think History Channel of them trying to find Escobar's treasure, and just like his stashes of money everywhere,
suitcases in the
Suitcase.
ground. Yeah.
So, did you guys go after the money, or did you mainly go after the product?
Stop
I'm
the
not-
source, man.
Yeah, I'm actually not that familiar with that back then. He was killed before I started with DEA. I would think they would go after the assets, but the assets would stay there with the Colombian government.
So okay.
Of course they would.
Well, they were all bought off back then. Narcos is a good show.
Yeah, and then when they went to the Mexico season, some of those guys that run the task force were some of the guys I worked with in Miami.
Oh yeah.
And I don't know if you've seen it, but when you see some of the stuff they had done and the way I know those guys, no doubt that it's spot on.
Wow.
I'll just leave it at that.
Wow.
So let me ask you this. Have you seen, I mean, I'm sure you have, an increase in cartels in America. I've been reading a lot as of late over the past year about cartels taking over in like Northern California.
Southern.
And was it?
Southern.
I'm sorry. Is it in Southern Cal? Well,
Along the
obviously
Mexican border,
southern.
I've heard
the
of
border towns.
Arizona. Is
well,
no, right?
no.
Yeah.
So I read this this article.
Lots
This
of
guy
Canadians.
actually has a book out, and so he was a park ranger, and it's a book. I think it's called The Secret War, and he was in Northern California, and these cartels are moving in. And they're moving into government land way back in the middle of nowhere, sort of like Medellin. And they're setting up labs. And so he was on a hike back there for a couple days. And I don't know if it was in the high Sierras, though.
Yeah.
And he ended up stumbling upon a grow site and basically like asked the government for help and they wouldn't do it because they were outnumbered. And basically took it into his own hands. But there's farms that up in Northern California right now that are getting their water stolen, and you know what I mean. So
yeah, they're from like for forever they've tried to grow marijuana out there.
Yeah,
I have read maybe a couple years ago they were trying to grow the coca leaf out there as well.
Okay,
so they can make cocaine out there.
Is there a big dispute between the well? I don't want to just say Native Americans, but I'm just going to say Native American, like the growers of marijuana and the cartels. Is there like some type of turf
Did I
war?
mention everybody's greedy in this business?
yeah.
So yes,
Of course.
there's always going to be. In dealing with the Native American reservations, that's just a whole other world.
Yeah.
Like they have to do all their own law enforcement.
Yeah.
So, and the only federal agency that can go onto a reservation to make an arrest is the FBI. And so we know what has to happen for that to happen. They have to vote wrong. So
there you go.
Wow.
Man, the whole political arm. Man,
That's so true.
the FBI. Unfortunate.
That's actually a good segue into the next question here. Do you think, and correct me if I'm wrong, the question is, do you think the U.S. government has a hand? I don't know. I don't know if you can actually. I don't know if you can actually answer this. Now that I'm saying it.
Speak truthfully.
turn
please.
those bright lights off, man. I'll tell you the truth.
But yeah, is it is there government involvement on our side? Is it basically a war on the American people at this? Like what's your
We're just getting paid
Two
off
words. Eric Holder.
somehow. Yeah.
Any of them. So like when I was a cop and I became a cop in 92. And so you heard stories about the CIA starting, crack in LA. And I'm like, nah, that would never happen. And if you ask me that today, I'm like, heck yeah, that happened. I just like, some of the cases I've worked out of Miami, working closely with the Bogota office, the U.S. Embassy in Bogota is the second largest U.S. embassy in the world, right? So it's a big place, a lot of people. And we would have phone calls with our DEA counterparts in Bogota and tell them, okay, we're looking at this ship and this captain and this is the crew, where they're passing information back and forth. Next day, I'm called into a high-level supervisor's office and say, hey, here's this top-secret report related to your case. And it's this information I gave to Bogota yesterday. And it's the spooks intercepting the phone calls down there in the embassy and reporting that stuff like it's theirs.
wow?
So I would say between the CIA and the State Department, that makes a lot of federal law enforcement agencies work harder than they have to.
Man. Anything you want to say that just burns the whole thing down?
Not yet.
Nothing. Okay.
Right here next to the emergency food and the Peloton.
Have you seen firsthand? I mean, obviously, but like firsthand the corruption.
Not firsthand, but I have very good knowledge. I had kind of a unique career with DEA. I did 3 years as the training coordinator, so I was responsible for training agents in Miami and all over Florida with tactics and raid tactics and all that kind of stuff. And then we trained local cops all over the state on how to do basic narcotics investigations. Matter of fact, yesterday was the 25th anniversary of Black Hawk Down.
Yep.
Todd Blackburn was one of our students.
Oh, no way, man.
Yeah.
That's cool.
He was a cop up in Pensacola. So side note there. But
Blackburn.
But I did 3 years as the DEA media representative. And so in that role, I sat right down the hall from the top guy who covers DEA in Florida and the Bahamas, and actually probably the most powerful guy in DEA. And when we started doing all these pill mill takedowns in 2009, 2010, and 2011, we not only went after the doctors, we didn't go after the users. That's just not what we needed to do. That's not what DEA does. We go after the source. And so we went after the doctors, the stores, the distributors that brought the drugs to the stores, and tried to go after the manufacturers, because there's a whole chain of reporting that everybody along the way has to do. Everybody has responsibility for it, where every one of those pills ends up, not once it's in the user's hands, but to the user. And so I won't mention any names because I don't want to put any liability out there, but there may be a pharmacy chain or two that DEA was really trying to put the penalty to.
Eckerd's.
Remember Eckerd's?
It was Eckerd's. We all know it.
I didn't know anybody else knew what an Eckerd's was.
Eckerd's is closed.
Yeah. They were closed before the pill mill days, so they missed out.
Oh,
But,
I bet that. Okay.
yeah.
CVS.
But Department of Justice influenced, from what I understand, it was influenced by Congress. And so their penalties were chopped down dramatically. Like, we're looking at millions, and they went from a bunch of digits on the left of the decimal to one digit.
Wow.
So,
Whoa.
yeah.
Oh, that's rain. You hear that rain?
Because they got
Oh,
money.
it's so good for my grass right now. Sorry. Wow. Wow. So
For your sod.
for my sod, a sod.
Don't tell me about your
Yeah,
grass.
don't
You
talk
do
about
that
the
stuff
grass.
later, okay?
While you're talking about drugs, it's the sod.
Poor timing. Oh my God.
I was wondering why you wouldn't invite me.
Tommy Chong over here.
I was wondering why he didn't invite me in the backyard. We're talking about growing grass back there.
I mean, 8 pallets of grass. No one sees back there.
No.
Asking me all these secrets about how to do it. I just thought he was asking for this.
So what?
So
do you-
how do I get 8 pallets down the road?
This podcast really isn't that good. We need a plan B.
So how do you fertilize marijuana?
So let me ask you this. I mean, there is an obvious answer, and it's because the corrupt politicians are making the money. But don't you think there would be one or two good politicians who would just say, we need to, I mean, if we have such a big epidemic right now when it comes to drugs,
Which we do.
right.
2,000
Right.
people a year dying
right.
of fentanyl.
That's an epidemic. Why can't we just declare war on the cartels and just shut this down?
Because I think you'd have to declare war on a few pharmaceutical manufacturers.
Like Pfizer?
I'm not saying any
okay.
names, but, yes.
Yep.
They're about it. Whoa, that's crazy.
Yeah. That's
The Ozarks. I saw the pharmaceutical company got wrapped up. Oh, it's a series.
I never
It's
saw
not-
it.
It's all a series.
Are you bilingual?
I speak enough Spanish to get into and out of trouble.
Okay. Cool. Taking you on a trip.
Let's go.
How many frequent flyer miles do you have built up? Can you travel without having to pay a dime?
Not anymore.
Not anymore. Oh, you used them.
Between miles and hotel points, I really did get in hotel points.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
Johnny
I was-
V over here. He's got a bunch.
So
I
I've
bet you
got,
do,
I've got
We're trying to go to the border.
yeah, that's like our next thing. We want to go to the border to check it out. I've been down there a few times living in California.
Or
but-
Skinwalker Ranch.
Yeah.
We'll go. We'll do a live podcast from one of those places.
I just saw, because I've traveled so much, JetBlue. No, not JetBlue. It was Delta. I was a Delta guy, and they just sent me my miles for lifetime miles. It's over. I think almost 250,000 miles.
You better use it
right
before
now.
they get bought out.
No. These are just they keep a tally now of like, because you hit the 1,000,000 mile marker.
Yeah.
You know, they give you. But I saw this really cool thing. I've been to so many really cool hotels over the past decade.
Sure.
Like what I do is I start keeping the keys that go, the cards, because there's some really cool cards, and I've kept enough to where I want to make my wife a cool coffee table.
I bet
And
she's gonna love it.
or put it up in my office. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, it's really awesome. It's really awesome.
She's like, oh.
Yeah,
say, was
she
that
wouldn't use it, but
sarcasm
she'd
or
be
was
like, she's
was
like,
that
why wouldn't you just frame this? Why would you put this in my house?
She's like,
But
oh dear.
I've laid all of them out before, and they look awesome, man.
I bet.
They
Let
do.
her decorate the house.
So you really got to mix it up. And I can't remember the name of the hotel off the top of my head, but there's a hotel in Highlands County, and you still get a key, like a legit key.
Oh yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
We're at the Ritz for a retreat, and their key card was wood.
Yeah, it's
Oh,
not.
Yep.
That was pretty cool.
I had a wood on.
I gave it to the guy at the counter when I was checking out, and he looked at me like, "Don't you want this?" I was like,
Yeah, we kept both of ours.
"What am I gonna do with it?"
So there's this.
That's also a good point.
Yeah.
I was on a security detail in the Bahamas one time, and Lyford Key,
Key. It's key.
and there's the hotel there called the Island House, and I stayed at the Island House, and they give you these keys, but it literally turns like everything, like nothing inside of the hotel room works unless you stick the key into the wall.
Yep.
And then everything works.
Yep.
It was the coolest way, but the only problem was I couldn't take the key with me, to save it as a souvenir. But yeah, it was cool, man.
So do you got any?
What's cool is walking into a resort hotel in the Bahamas in full DEA tactical gear, going, "Yeah, I need a room for the night," and they're like, "Oh, why?"
Yeah,
Fully loaded
that's
with
pretty
everything.
awesome, man. That's pretty awesome.
I didn't even have clothes. I'd go to the gift shop, and they gave me a heck of a discount, which was very nice.
I bet they did. I bet they did.
please
Like,
don't
give
wear
him
that to
anything. Give him anything he wants.
Yeah, please don't wear that to the restaurant.
yeah.
Well, I do have one final question on here. Are you a big conspiracy guy?
a little,
Okay. We're not theorizing.
because the rest of it's all truth.
Yeah, they're
Yeah,
not theorizing.
Yeah. I only have a few conspiracy theories.
Wait, before we ask the last question, we have a new table. We haven't even talked about this new table. You're our first guest to see this nice wooden table. It's like a poor man's butcher block.
It's lovely.
IKEA?
We're gonna have you sign it at the end.
All right.
We're gonna
Nice.
Yep.
There we go.
Getting all
Great
of our
idea.
guests to sign.
yeah, we're gonna have all of our guests sign it.
All right.
There may be one signature on it.
There's one right
we'll
there.
see. We'll see if we get shut down. We're a week at a time.
Yeah.
We didn't get shut down last week.
We got strike one. I'm shocked that we haven't gotten shut down because of Dr. Braveheart.
Well, I didn't post those.
Oh,
We will then.
Yeah, that's why.
yeah.
I thought, because
Yeah.
you get so many warnings. So if we post one, I guarantee there's a warning. The second one, that'll be a warning, and then
Yeah.
it's just a matter of time.
We're on Rumble, right?
Yeah,
We are on Rumble.
We are on Rumble.
Good there.
So check us
Very
out.
good there.
You got to, but it's under Not a Good Podcast.
Yep.
Tag.
Yep.
And this episode, we just got worse podcast.
Yeah. No, it's just no. This is great.
It's been great, man.
But we do have a final question, and then we definitely want to have you back with some follow ups that we're like, shoot, we should have asked him this question.
Gladly.
But we do have a way for our listeners to call in. Do
Yeah,
you
we
remember?
do.
You remember
Yep.
what the number was?
Yeah, I've got it here. It's 850-290-2044. And you can actually call in. You can leave us a message, whether that's a review, whether it's just, you wanting to express your opinions about some of the things we talk about, whatever's on your mind, give us a call. Let us know.
Tell us how bad the show is,
Or
because we don't care.
If any of our guests want to just leave a just like, hey, I forgot to mention this, and we can pick up where we left off.
Absolutely.
But yeah, go
Take
for
it away,
Jay.
Jay.
Well, this is going to be a fantastic segue.
Kinda scared of this.
From that light interlude there. So I believe it was last week, we kind of were talking about adrenochrome, and then it was more human trafficking kind of thing.
Human trafficking.
Hey, Monday when we drop this next episode, Monday,
You'll
it gets
understand.
Deep. Yeah, it gets deep.
Okay.
So, and I understand, we're talking about cartels, we're talking about, gangs, gang violence, and then you're hearing a lot more about it. You're seeing things in the news. But I guess as far as kind of the recent episodes, we've been talking about the New World Order a lot. Mm-hmm. So do you think the invasion at the border plays into the New World Order, like it's purposeful?
I don't know if you know this, but from what I read, there's also like 500,000 Africans on the north border of Africa about to do the same thing into Europe. So
Really?
I'm sure it's not a coincidence.
Yeah.
So yes, the answer is yes.
Okay.
You will own nothing and be happy.
Exactly.
They want the open borders.
Yep.
They do.
Yep. Destroy society.
Absolutely.
I really think it's coordinated. It's a coordinated attack on the sovereignty of our nation.
Well, yeah. And just earlier tonight, you had mentioned something about how there were coyotes
Yeah.
at the border.
Yes.
Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah. So,
They didn't understand the language.
yeah, there was, when I was living in San Diego, I kept hearing stories, and I've actually talked to some Border Patrol agents who had interrogated some coyotes, and they said that they were getting a lot of people that looked like their people, but they were speaking a language that they had never heard before. And I was like, these are Middle Eastern guys trying to make their way through. So I have no doubt in my mind, number one, that this is part of a bigger plan government-wise, but number two, I think there's some terrorist cells that are coming through our border. I mean, you'd have to
There has to be.
You'd have to be an idiot
There
not to
has to
think
be.
so.
There was just a video of like a parade of Chinese people coming in,
Right.
all young adult males.
Yeah,
And
fighting
like,
age.
How do they get to Mexico? Like, how'd they get out of China?
Yep.
Wow.
Yeah. We have no idea what we're letting in through that border.
No, none at all.
What wasn't it? $18,000 people, like an hour or something.
Yeah, I mean, you
couple
saw the
weeks ago?
train. You talking about on the train?
Yeah.
You guys see
Yeah.
the train
Oh, yeah.
coming in?
Yeah. Coming through Mexico.
I mean, and then they just bum rushed the border last night.
Eagle Pass.
Eagle
right?
Pass, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and
Which
I
is
heard-
actually where I was wanting us to go. I want us to go to Eagle Pass.
sounds like a good idea.
So this is my perception from DEA of Eagle Pass. When you really screw up in DEA and piss off the wrong people, that's where you get transferred to.
Wow. Well, you know,
Like a Brownsville, Texas. Like Brownsville, Texas.
I would go to Brownsville in a heartbeat before.
Really?
You oh yeah, live on
Whoa.
South Padre Island. Oh yeah.
I tell you, man, when I get bored, sometimes I'll get on Google Maps and go through all those places to see where they're coming across the border. And man, Eagle Pass, it's like third world country.
Yeah.
It's crazy down there.
That's funny.
Yep.
Well, our president is now wanting to build a wall.
Not my president.
Right? He's putting up 20 miles down there in Texas.
But he's going to cut down the serpentine wire that Texas is putting up. That makes sense.
My gosh.
That racist.
Yeah, right? Right. Well, Jay, before we close up shop, we got one voicemail.
Oh, we did.
Yeah. I wonder if I can pull this up here.
Did we really?
Have we
Yeah.
vetted? Is it?
We got this one midweek.
Have any of you listened to this?
Oh,
I
here.
sense yes.
I think it's
Okay.
very.
I believe I'm
Let's
being
hope
set up for something here.
No, it's not for you.
Okay.
So let me see if I can pull this up here.
Uh-oh.
I smell another conspiracy theory right here.
I wonder.
We did set up a voicemail. I just don't.
Here we go.
I remember the voice.
Oh, and hey, this is Brandon Daytona. I've been a listener since day one. Left a review for you on the podcast channel there. Hey, I want to be on. Put me on, man. Yeah, I want to talk a little bit about things going on. Love what you guys are doing. Guide and Jay. Talk to you later. Bye.
What was that? Is that Randy Daytona?
Randy Daytona.
He made it.
He was, if I remember correctly,
He
was
left
one
us-
of the first people that left us a review.
Thank you, Randy. We appreciate you
I'm
listening.
pulling it up right.
There's so if Randy can get on our podcast, you can get on our podcast.
Randy D.
So send us a voicemail and
June
we'll-
27th, he left us a review on Apple Podcasts.
Look at that, Randy.
Thanks, Randy.
You guys covering multi counties here. It's impressive.
Been here since day one. We love
Where do you
buddy.
think Randy's from?
I would assume.
Daytona?
Yeah. Where did
Didn't you say Daytona, Atlanta? Daytona, Georgia?
Atlanta.
Just a guess.
Because he told us the first time we read that. He said it was So where they do the Daytona 500 at? Isn't it Atlanta?
I'm so sorry.
Oh, no.
Well, it was so good to have you
Yes.
here.
Thanks for
Thank
joining
you.
us.
Glad to be enjoyed it.
I mean, it's the quickest hour we had. That just flew by. I'd love to have you on again.
Be glad to.
Yeah, I appreciate
That was
it.
awesome. Thanks, man.
Thanks for
Excellent.
having me.
Yeah, well, this was Not a Good Podcast. Subscribe to us wherever you listen to podcasts. Leave us a review and join us next time.
All right.
That was
Did
good.
I say subscribe
It's awesome.
correct?
You've been listening to Not a Good Podcast. Tune in next time